Welcome to the Sunshine Parenting Podcast. My name is Audrey Monkey, and I am your host. Here at Sunshine Parenting, I research, write, speak, and interview podcast guests on the topics of parenting, summer camp, and happiness. In episode 17, I'm talking with Corona Del Mar Middle School Principal Becky Gogel about her new policy of no cell phones at lunchtime for her students. Hi, Becky. This is Audrey. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk to me today.
No, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
So, Becky, can you just tell a little bit about your background and your job that you are in now?
Absolutely. Currently, I'm the middle school principal at Corona Del Mar Middle School. I have been in the Newport Mesa Unified School District for the past 21 years, and prior to that, I was in National City for 4 years, and I taught in National City, and subsequent to that, I became a high school counselor in Newport Mesa, did that for several years, became an assistant principal, became a principal, did some work at the district level in the student services office, and now I have the privilege of working with middle school kids on a daily basis.
And how long have you been at Corona Del Mar Middle School?
This is my 5th year.
Oh, great. Okay. Just, this is kind of unrelated, but I actually went to 1 year at Corona Del Mar High School back when, back when Lincoln Middle School was the middle school for the area. So I used to be on your campus years ago, many years ago.
Wonderful. Well, if you ever want a tour, please come on by.
Oh, I actually definitely want to come by during lunch one day and see those kids.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You will definitely see a change for sure.
Good. Okay. So the reason that I called you and wanted to get in touch was because I saw the article that got shared a lot about your new policy about not allowing the kids to have their cell phones at lunchtime. And I just wanted you to tell us a little bit about how you decided, or how your school decided to have that policy.
Well, we had some teachers, and we've been watching over the past couple of years, and I've been researching it and talking to colleagues about the impact that cell phones have on students in general, and specifically, of course, during their unstructured times on campus, such as lunch. And we had a group of teachers last year that were meeting together to talk about ways to help students sort of reclaim their face-to-face interaction. And so we talked about a number of ideas, and it came down to the idea to create a cell phone free zone. So really to put a positive spin on it rather than saying no cell phones allowed. We approached it with the intent to create a zone where it was cell phone free, and therefore students were able to interact with each other on a more positive and regular basis.
That's terrific. And so how did you roll out the program, or did you start it at the very beginning of the school year, or how did you implement it?
We started it with actually the very first day of school. We started it, and we actually got some information out to parents and families in our community just in little snippets prior to school starting. There was sort of the rumor that we had a cell phone-free zone now on campus. And, of course, our new 7th grade class that were coming in, they were all coming from feeder elementary schools who primarily had a cell phone-free across their campus. So it wasn't such a great learning curve for the incoming 7th graders, but of course the 8th graders who had been here with us already a year, that was a little bit more of a transition for them. From day one, we had posters that our middle school ASB students had put all over the campus in the enclave area with, like a circle with a line drawn across it with cell phones and lots of cute signage to remind students. And we made announcements the first couple of days of school over the PA, and we were all out during lunch, as is our practice. All of the administrative team, counselor, et cetera, go out during lunch to talk with students, to have an adult presence during that time, and to also encourage them to interact with each other in positive ways. And so during the first week of school, we gave lots of warnings. Don't forget, don't forget. And so there was a little bit of a learning curve. After that, we just started to say, oh, give me your cell phone. And so it wasn't even really a lot of discussion. We would hold the cell phone till the end of lunch, and then we'd have students come and see us at the end of the lunch to pick it up. Really, after about the first week of school, where we're setting that initial tone for a positive school culture, we were able to see transformation, and there wasn't really a high incident of kids that were not following the cell phone free zone. They were, putting their cell phones away and were actively engaged, and we felt like that just became the new norm.
Oh, that is just awesome. And as I told you before we started recording, I really wish all schools would do this, and honestly, high schools as well.
I totally agree.
I mean, because it's so what I found is kids, when they do have those times for breaks from phones like they do at camp or now at lunch at your school, they recognize the benefits and see it themselves and will articulate, wow, that was actually really good not to be on my phone.
Absolutely. All of the students that I've spoken with, I mean, you always have a student who, wishes they could send a message or send a text, but they're, for the far majority of students, they have been able to articulate the impact of that, putting down a device and having that time to have face-to-face conversation has been so powerful for them. I've had even seventh graders say, I met students that I never would have met if I hadn't, put my cell phone down and started talking to students and talking to other kids. I had another student that said that a cell phone is a great device to hide behind if you're a little shy. And so the kids that would sort of clump together and have what I call like parallel play, when you look at developmentally, like, the age of, 18 to 24 months, maybe even a little younger, where they're playing alongside each other, but not necessarily interacting with each other. That's what I saw in middle school. I saw kids last year sitting next to each other on their devices, texting each other when they're right next to each other. And it was a flashback to early stages of developmental parallel play.
Right.
So I thought, this is not the direction we want to be going.
Right.
So students have said how powerful it's been for them. And my favorite comment was from an 8th grader yesterday, and we were just happened to be chatting about it. And she said, well, it's not a big deal anymore because we know we're not going to miss anything during lunch because no one's sending messages anyway.
Yes.
And I thought,
yes,
that permission to take a break and unplug. I think we don't realize that the position we put ourselves in when we don't give them permission to take a break, because that whole fear of missing out, and what if I don't see the latest Snapchat strain, there's that constant pressure to keep up with that 24/7. And I was thinking, this may be the only 30 minutes in 24 hours where they know none of their friends at school are going to contact them on their cell phone.
I'm sure it is the only 30 minutes because, as we know, there's some kids who have their devices, unfortunately, all day and all night. Which is not safe for them. My daughter is a high school English teacher in Northern California, and she was telling me a story that one of her students, she was sharing with one of her students that she often doesn't receive texts until after the school day. So it's like a friend might text her in the morning because she's a teacher and she won't be able to respond until 4:00. And the students were just shocked because they thought that was not being a good friend. And so she was explaining to them that that's normal for adults, that when you're working, doing different things and focused on other people that you're with, you don't respond right away. But kids, their social norm is this immediate response. So that is such a gift you're giving them, of them knowing that they're not missing anything. So tell me about the response of parents, and the both positive and people who didn't like that idea of not being able to have full contact all the time with their kids.
Well, the overwhelming majority of parents have been super, super supportive of the policy, and actually broke out in the first PTA meeting of the school year, which was the third day of school. They broke out into spontaneous applause when I started talking about it. And I thought, okay, we are going in the right direction. And I already knew we were, but it was so amazing to see that the parent community was embracing it, because my hope is some of this will have a domino effect on how they work with their child at home and social media, and empower the parents to say, it's okay for me to give my child permission to put down their device as a gift to my child, not as a consequence, but as a gift to help them get that time back. And so that was, the first real group indicator from the community of how well the policy was being received. We do have a couple of parents who, obviously need to get in contact with their student, or students who want to reach out to their parent during that lunchtime time frame. And so we actually have a couple of options for them. They can come into the middle school office anytime during lunch and use their phone. The middle school office itself is not a cell phone free zone. So if they need to call a parent, call another adult in their life, they can do that using their cell phone in the enclave office. We also have a student dedicated phone in the office for students and parents that come in that need to use a landline phone. So kids can come in and use that phone as well. So parents who know they're going to need to get a hold of their child will say, you better pop into the enclave office during lunch so I can get a hold of you. And really growing up, I know my mom couldn't get a hold of me during the day, or my dad, when I was at school. And we've just created this false new norm where instantaneous, constant contact is the way that we do business. And it's okay to say for this 30 minutes, my child is going to have a break from that device.
And hopefully during class as well, they're not texting their parents.
Actually, I know. Well, actually, we have a policy within the classroom now as well, and that is that those devices are only used for instructional purposes. And there's a cell phone management system that's in place in every middle school classroom. So when kids come in, primarily it's a shoe rack or some kind of a storage system, a parking lot of sorts for cell phones. And kids just know that that's the norm. They come in the classroom, they drop their phones in a storage rack. And it has worked very, very successfully. And then they're able to access it if they're going to do something that's intentional for curriculum. Maybe use an app that is connected to a core content area, or use it for like Kahoot or Quizlet, or something along those lines, Edpuzzle, along those lines.
So are you doing any kind of educational work like in your district or with other principals to try to spread this idea to other places beyond your school?
Well, I think that we all borrow great ideas from each other in our school district, and of course across the United States, of course, nationally. I'm always looking for great ideas to implement on behalf of my kids here at CDM. So we've spent a lot of time talking about it, and I think that some of my colleagues were just sort of a wait and see mode to see how it played out so that they could benefit from my learning curve.
Right.
So any hiccups we had or any trips we had, that they could benefit from being able to avoid that. And so I think that there is certainly a movement across the district and nationally to find a way to help kids make better decisions and better choices, and limiting their access to social media, of course, is a great idea, and then just limiting their device time overall is incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. Tell me what you recommend for your students' parents when you talk to them. What do you kind of tell them about what they can do at home to support this and to limit social media and phone use?
Absolutely. Well, I take sort of a hard line with my own kids. I have a middle school son myself, who is in 7th grade, and so I really have to walk the talk. And I do. My kids have no social media, zero social media. I have found in my experience, and after working with kids this age for 25 years, you sort of get a sense of what is going to be a positive influence in their life, and what are the negatives outweigh the benefits. And in this case, I really feel like social media for this age group specifically, the negative pieces way outweigh anything that could be positive. What I noticed even with my own friends, even as adults, one of my friend groups will put up a picture of a gathering they had, and then someone that didn't know about the gathering will post, why wasn't I invited? So there's this whole even social pressure that adults have to navigate with social media. So imagine if you're a 12-year-old trying to make friends, and all you're doing is looking at all these things that you either weren't invited to, or you were there and someone made a comment about what you were wearing. And it used to be when you had some kind of a disconnect with someone at school, it stayed at school. You could go home and just shake it off. And now it is just constant, 24/7. Ding, ding, ding. I hear phones ring, not on my campus anymore.
Right.
But in the past, all the time, that constant pressure to have your social status completely wrapped up in a social media world. And so I have told my son, you know what? You don't need to get involved with that yet. And every now and then he presses me because he's a middle school boy. But
That's what they
overall,
do.
I said, you know what? You're never going to look back on life and go, Mom, I wish you would have let me have social media when I was 13.
Right. Oh, gosh. Well, that is terrific. Now, is he your oldest, or do you have older children as well?
He is my oldest.
Okay.
I have my daughter's just about to turn 10.
Okay.
And so that conversation, and she has friends with social media accounts.
Right.
In 4th grade.
I know.
And so they look at me kind of like I'm crazy, but I tell them that what I'm giving them is a gift.
Oh, my gosh.
And,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
so we have very structured times for when any kind of smart devices can be used, including Chromebooks and laptops at my house, and then of course no social media at all.
Right. Okay. And then do you have your kids keep their devices like in a central area to charge and that type of thing as well?
Yeah, I have gone back and forth with that. I think that is the preferred method. I also, and I share this with a lot of my parents, try to keep on top of applications, apps and other things that can track all of that usage as well.
Right.
So it happens. My son does happen to have a smartphone, which I still go back and forth on whether or not that was a good plan. He does not have data tied to his phone, so he can only use it when he's at school or at home where he can access Wi-Fi if he needs data. And then my phone, we have a connected account, so his phone is mirrored on my phone. I can see who he's called. I can see the length of the call. I can see who he tried to FaceTime, if anyone.
Right.
And then I also check his phone nightly. And then I also have a couple of apps that I use to guide his growing independence.
Oh, my gosh. That sounds like a lot of work.
It is.
Oh, my
gosh.
You
know what?
Yes.
I figure it's work on the front end because otherwise we're going to be, holding a crying child on the other end because of just the horrible things they say when they have a sense of anonymity. Oh my gosh, I know. And I'm sure your experience as a school counselor, you experience the pain, the emotional pain that kids are facing daily from all of this, being inundated by all of this. Well, this is just so terrific and inspiring. And I hope that parents and school administrators who are listening are inspired to look at their own policies at school and at home, because honestly, I think this is something that when you look at the trends of the anxiety and depression and all the problems that our kids are having, I think this is one way that we all know we can help our kids is by limiting this. And so I'm just so happy and pleased. And I think you're very brave to be at the forefront of this movement. Thank you so much. Well, it really is a gift to be part of giving a gift back to kids so that they can take back that ownership of their personal time and their face-to-face interactions. That is just terrific. Well, I definitely hope that I can, on one of my visits down there, my parents and my sister and a lot of families still live in Newport. So I get down there quite frequently and actually speak sometimes to parents and teachers at schools down there. I would love to come by and see your kids at lunchtime. And it would be so much fun to just see what's going on there, because I am sure your kids are growing socially much more than the kids at the other schools when they're all looking down on their devices. Absolutely. That is our research-based hope. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I really enjoyed it, and I will continue to spread the word about the amazing work you're doing and hope that it catches on everywhere. Thank you so much. It's been great talking with you, Audrey. I was so inspired talking with Becky and so pleased to hear the changes she's making at her school. I hope her talk also inspired you, both in your parenting or for teachers and school administrators at your schools. For notes and more information about this episode, visit my website at sunshine-parenting.com and search for episode 17. After talking with Becky, I was inspired by her leadership in blazing this new trail of limiting kids' cell phones at lunchtime at school. And so I'm going to leave you with a quote about great leaders, of which Becky definitely is one. Great leaders don't set out to be a leader. They set out to make a difference. It's never about the role, always about the goal.